This is from a video where I discussed how we just got my son's genetic testing back for his severe hemophilia B, which is a blood clotting disorder, and we found out that it was a random mutation that occurred. And then I also described in that video that bruising was the main symptom that we saw of my son's hemophilia. One appointment, my pediatrician was like, maybe he has low iron levels. My son was exclusively breastfed, and it's common for babies who are breastfed to have low iron, and having low iron can cause bruising. So we started giving my son an iron supplement, and we actually noticed the bruising got a lot better. And we're like, okay, maybe he was just anemic. Well, over time, the bruising came back. We kept being told that the bruising was normal and that boys will be boys and he's just rough on himself. One specific situation, we went to go get pictures for my son. We sat him down. He was next to like a wood thing. He fell to the side. The wood prop was 5 inches away from him. That night he had a bruise. The next day he had a huge 2-3 inch size bruise, purple, black, and had a hematoma. If you don't know what a hematoma is, it is a bump underneath a bruise, and it usually means tissue damage. He didn't cry when he fell to the side. He seemed normal. So we're like, yeah, this isn't normal. So I called the pediatrician. I was like, my son has bruising, like I've been mentioning. We need to get him testing. This has to be done. For all of this, I had finished my clinical hours in mental health counseling. And part of that was teaching a trauma processing group. So I decided after my clinical hours, I want to get my emphasis in trauma. So I went back and got my emphasis in trauma, got pregnant with my son, and took some time off. And then I was supposed to start my internship in May, and this was March. So around March is when we took him into the pediatrician. And I knew that the pediatrician would ask me if I was harming my son because bruising is a sign of abuse. Also know that it's important to always have somebody there with you as a witness. My dad he lives near me. He also was seeing the bruising. My husband has just switched careers, and my husband was not worried about like CPS getting called or anything like that. But I still wanted somebody in the room as a support and also who could express that this bruising is abnormal. Set up an appointment as soon as I can to get his blood drawn. The pediatrician calls me back within like a week and lets me know there's some abnormal stuff on his blood, but you need to go see a specialist. Called the closest specialist, which was 4 hours away, and I was told they didn't have anything open till May. And I'm like, my son has really bad bruising. We cannot wait till May. I tried to describe what was going on, and they're like, yep, May is the soonest. So we called everywhere else, and we ended up getting an appointment with a specialist who was 7 hours away within like a week or two. So we're like, we'll take it. So we drive all the way to see the specialist. She looks over my son. She was really nice. And she also was like, I have to ask if you guys are harming your child. We, of course, said no. And then they asked is he in childcare? And I was like, no, I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. And also we have put like padding throughout our whole house. We have a huge mat in front of our couch. We have tried everything to help the bruising. So that's when we're like, this isn't normal. So she's like, okay, I have to ask. So they took his blood, which was very traumatic. They had to hold him down. He was screaming. He ended up getting a blown vein. His arm swelled up. He couldn't move it. He was like lethargic for 2 days. It was a really hard experience. We were still in town. We let them know what happened, and they're like, yeah, blown veins can be common, especially with him fighting so much during the blood draw. They're like, just ice it, give him Tylenol. And within like 3 days, he was feeling a lot better. Called me back within like a week and 4 days, and they told me on the phone that my son has severe hemophilia B factor, which is a factor 9 deficiency. So his blood percentage is 0.7%. An individual who does not have hemophilia has a blood percentage of 50 to 150%. So that's why he doesn't heal. That's why he has bruising. And that's why we were seeing the symptoms of bruising and hematomas. We get on a Zoom call, and they describe that my son will need at least 1 time a week of infusions, if not 1 to 3 times a week. And the only type of treatment there is for hemophilia B in toddlers and infants is infusions through a vein. So that's just what there is for treatment for his children his age. Obviously, if he has a spontaneous bleed or pain, he can't vocalize with us that I'm having a bleed. And also if he falls, he's still learning. He's not aware he has a blood disorder. So if he falls and hits his head or his arm, he's protected. He has some type of treatment in his body. So that way he doesn't get muscle bleeds or a brain bleed or anything like that. So around May, we decided, we're going to do the port surgery. We started calling on that. because, again, we don't want to put my son through holding him down, trying to find a vein, getting a blown vein, which could lead to a muscle bleed. And it was a lot of decisions very quickly. We got my son his port implant. It's been life changing. And I had to postpone my internship because my son is high needs. I live in a small town. Daycares aren't going to take that liability. And also, my husband and I are like, do we feel comfortable just dropping our child off who has a blood disorder at a facility, hopefully that they can watch him all day? So on treatment, though, good news is he's doing really well. He's still his happy, sweet self. He hardly has any bruising at his doctor's appointments. They're like, yeah, all his bruising looks very normal. So thankfully, I never got CPS called on me. Yes, the doctors did ask me if I was abusing my son. I think that's protocol. I think they have to do that. And thankfully, they believed that I was not harming my son, and we were able to get answers and a diagnosis.